Episode 3. The Inheritance. Grace's Perspective.
I had heard the news through the village grapevine long before I saw him. Liam's come back to the house, they'd said. Arthur's nephew, the one who never visited. I wasn't surprised that Arthur had left the house to Liam. Arthur never said much about him, but I knew he had been thinking about his nephew for years. I had asked him once why he didn't get in touch. He shrugged, sitting in his usual spot by the window in the café.
"It's not my job to bring him back. He'll come when he's ready,"
he said. Arthur had always been like that. Quiet but sure. He didn't chase after people, but he always seemed to know when they needed him. So when I saw Liam walk into the cafe that morning, looking as if he didn't know what to do next, I knew why Arthur had left him the house. The boy, well, man now, looked lost. "Morning, Liam," I said with a smile as he walked in. He blinked, surprised that I knew his name, but I'd been expecting him.
"You know who I am?"
he asked, sitting at the counter. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept well in days. "Arthur talked about you sometimes," I said. "Not often, but enough. And let's say there's definitely a family resemblance." He didn't say much after that, just looked around, taking in the cafe. I knew what he was thinking. The whole village looked the same as it always had. The same old buildings, the same people, the same quiet pace of life. For someone used to the city, it must have been a shock. We sat in silence for a while. Then I asked, "How's the house? I bet it's in rough shape." Liam let out a heavy sigh.
"You could say that. It's falling apart, really. Cracks everywhere, leaks, mold. I don't know if it's even worth fixing."
He paused.
"I thought I'd sell it, but—"
His voice trailed off. I waited. I could see the conflict on his face. He didn't want to say it, but I already knew what he was feeling. "Arthur always said you'd come back," I told him. "He didn't know when, but he was sure of it, and he left you that house for a reason. I think he believed you'd figure it out." Liam looked a little angry but continued staring at his cup as he replied,
"What do you mean, figure it out?"
I smiled. "Arthur wasn't just leaving you a house. He was giving you a choice. The easy thing to do would be to sell it and go back to your life. But Arthur wanted to see if you were ready to decide what's really important." Liam looked up at me, and for a second I saw it in his eyes. That spark of recognition. He didn't say anything, but I could tell he was thinking about what I'd said. Maybe he wasn't ready to admit it, but deep down he knew Arthur hadn't left him the house by accident. Arthur believed Liam could find his way back, not just to the house, but to something deeper.
Liam's perspective.
Grace's words stuck with me as I walked back to the house. "The easy thing would be to sell it," she said. That's what I had been thinking from the start. But now, I wasn't so sure. Arthur had been waiting for me to come back. But why? The house wasn't just falling apart. It was a reminder of everything I had left behind. Fixing it meant more than just repairs. It meant reconnecting with a part of myself I had buried a long time ago. I wasn't sure if I was ready for that. As I walked through the front gate, the regret started to weigh on me. If I had come back sooner, maybe I would have understood Arthur better. Maybe this wouldn't feel so unfamiliar now. The sun was setting when I got back to the house. The garden was quiet, wild and untamed, just like the memories I had of this place. Grace's words echoed in my mind. Was I ready to decide what was important? I stood there for a long time, staring at the house, wondering if I'd ever be ready.